Domo arigato, Mr. Roboto. Domo domo. We are chillaxing for this episode. And this is where I'm at.
You got me feeling a fight. You got me feeling a fight. Like how could I not think of you?
I feel like that's one of the biggest issues with today's dating scene, especially with technology, especially with the apps, is that it doesn't lay a proper foundation for like friendship. Because when you think of like Tinder, and Tinder's the only one I can think of off the top of my head because it's the only one that I've regularly used. I don't know, you think of Tinder and the other dating apps and it's like Bumble. There's one. Think of like Tinder and Bumble and just dating apps in general. When I think of a dating app, I think of it's a hookup app. That's what I think of, is it's a hookup app, which is ironic because I had an almost 3-year relationship from a Tinder match. So I did the cute little Valentine of like, the card was like something to do with like, we matched on Tinder. It was a cute, whatever. I don't have to get into that. Anyway, when I envision my future, listen, okay, I'm going to get cheesy and sappy because I'm cheesy and sappy. All right. We already know this. If you've been around, hey, welcome back to the bedside table. I'm Ellie Marie. I'm your host. Welcome back. It's so good to have you. I'm very blue today, not emotionally, though I was earlier. Because there's lots of, ups and downs with me emotionally. And I'm going to talk about that today. I'm going to talk about the different shades of me, and more specifically, like in a broader sense, just the different shades of a human being and the versatility of a human. And anyway, I'm going to get into that. This is not making much sense toward the beginning, but stick around. We'll get into it. It's going to be good. We're talking about love. Last episode, I think I talked about love too. A little bit. What did I talk about last episode? Yeah, unconditional love. I talked about unconditional love in my previous episode. And maybe it's like Valentine's Day. It's around that time. Valentine's Day has passed by now, but it's around that time. It's like the season of love. And also the cold weather is starting. Knock on wood. I don't know. The cold weather is starting to die down and we're getting into... Spring is on the way. Slowly but surely spring is on the way. And maybe I don't know. I'm in a mood to talk about love. And I think part of why I'm in this mood is I think it's part of my grieving process that I'm in post-divorce. I think there's, some flowers sprouting up a little bit. Some flowers. And I'm just going to enjoy it. I'm going to smell the flowers while they're here. Okay. We're staying on track. Okay. This is what happens sometimes in my episodes is I sit down, I have an idea, I let my brain go. But I do have a couple of topics that I want to talk about today. Specifically, the first one being what I started with. I think one of the flaws with today's dating culture is that we've shied away from building a foundation based on friendship. Things from me, from my perspective, it all feels so quick. Yes. But I'm trying to think of, rapid came up. That's not what I'm trying to do. It all feels so rushed. It feels like we're trying to get to a particular place when we're like talking with someone. And maybe the end goal for a lot of people is sex and hooking up. Maybe that is why it feels so rushed sometimes, is because it's like people just want to, be done with you, which is like, ew. But I mean, sure, if that's what you're going for, if you're going for casual, if you're going for just sex, then sure, that's to each their own. I'm not saying that that's necessarily bad, but I'm saying in terms of like when you're trying to build a relationship with someone, or at least determine the potential of a relationship with somebody, but it just starts off so rushed. I don't know how else to explain it. other than what's lacking is, I feel like, this fundamental foundation of just, first of all, slowing it the fuck down so it doesn't feel as rushed, but also just getting to know somebody for the simple fact that you want to know them. It doesn't have to necessarily have an end goal. It doesn't have to necessarily be like, well, I have to hit these markers with this person and then we'll like each other enough to be able to be in a relationship. Then we'll like each other enough to be physically intimate with one another. Or, I don't know. I just feel like when I think about, oh yeah, that's what I was about to get cheesy and sappy, and then I changed the subject because my brain likes to do that. My brain's like, oh, we're going to talk about feelings. Let's like talk about something else. But no, I'm here in this space to talk about my feelings around this. And it involves me being vulnerable about how I feel about love. And I know that there's a lot of saps out there, so it's not just me. But whenever I'm vulnerable and open about being like sappy and cheesy, I feel like it's scary to be open that way. It's scary to be like, here's what I want from love, and it's actually just really simple and sweet. And I don't know if you'll agree, and I don't know if you'll like me for that. What the fuck? What the fuck is this voice that I'm doing? Sorry. This, it's past midnight for me right now. I've got my freaking hot chocolate, and like, I was watching a movie that spurred this inspiration to do this episode. So again, bear with me. Sometimes this is how these things go, and this is just how it's gonna be tonight. Thank you for being here. But when I think about my future love, when I think about the love that's going to exist in the future for me, because I know it's coming. Post-divorce, I've had a lot of thoughts and a lot of feelings about like, you're not ever going to find a great love again. And I know I'll never find a great love like the one that I had, but that's okay. That great love in and of itself is its own thing to be treasured, its own thing to be cherished, its own thing to be remembered. I don't need it to be this, I don't need my past great love to be something that stands up against, to compete with my future love. Does that make sense? Anyway, I've had to wrestle with a lot of thoughts and feelings of like, you're never going to feel loved like that again. And you're never going to have a love like that again. And it's like, first of all, the love that I shared with that person exists in here. It still exists within me. I carry that love with me. That love didn't exist with them without me. So it's still here. And I'll share it again someday. And it will be different, but it will still be a great love because that great love exists within me. So when I think about this future great love that I'm going to encounter, I've been thinking about like what I want it to be like. And I know it's not going to be, it never turns out exactly how you want it to, which is fine. That's how, life stays fun. Life is meant to be unpredictable. Life is meant to give you what you want, but in the ways that are unexpected. I guess. That's, in my experience, that's how it goes. I'm like, hey, life, universe, here's what I'd like. And then the universe is like, okay, we got you, but it's going to be wrapped in this, like, it's going to be concealed in a way that is like surprising, but eventually you'll realize, oh, this is actually what I wanted. That probably doesn't make much sense. Anyway, I've been thinking about what I want when it comes to building a great love. Because my husband and I'm just probably going to refer to him as my husband because that just feels more comfortable. Calling him my ex, he is my ex-husband, but for the sake of me speaking about like how I felt in the relationship, for the sake of speaking of my marriage, I'm just going to refer to him as my husband. So with my husband and I, it was very quick. It was very quick. It was very rushed, but there was this foundation of like seeing each other. There was this foundation of getting to know one another on a deeper level, having a genuine interest in each other. It wasn't just, oh, I want this from you. I want this from you. It wasn't, let's go on so many dates. And it wasn't like, let's go on so many dates. Let's tick off these boxes. Okay, you like this. Okay, I like this. Okay, we have these things in common. We jumped into things really quickly, but though there was that aspect of things being rushed, with him and I, it was like we were very just deeply interested in one another. And yes, it was quick and it was chaotic and it was toxic and it was all the craziness. And I talked about that in my episode about abusive relationships. But my marriage wasn't all that. My marriage wasn't just the chaos and the toxicity and the abuse. It wasn't just that. I had a genuine, deep, grand love with someone. And I will be forever changed by that. The love I shared with my husband changed my life. The relationship that we did build, the marriage and the bond that we shared with each other. I've never had a connection like that with anybody else. I've never shared a connection so deep and genuine. He saw every bit of me, and he was my best friend, and I was his best friend, and we were playful and we were goofy. And there are so many memories I can look back on of just my favorite memories to look back on are just him laughing and smiling, but in a way that like shows his like whole set of teeth. And he doesn't care what he looks like. And he doesn't care what he sounds like. He's just laughing and he's just smiling. And it's just such a genuine moment of seeing someone experiencing joy. But my husband was like that in a lot of ways. He didn't really care about what people thought or about how he looked, how he displayed himself. He was just himself. And I really admired that about him. There were so many things. There were so many things that I admired about him. Obviously, I loved him so much. And sorry, it's hot cocoa and it's like not hot anymore. So I was trying to drink it before it cooled down, but it cooled down quickly. It's okay. I'll save the rest and I'll heat it up. But I guess what I'm trying to say with me now reminiscing about my marriage, but I think it is important I'm drawing from the experience of sharing. I'm drawing from the experience of like the good things and the value that all of the valuable memories and all of the good that I would like to exist in my future love that's from my previous love. Because of course I can take a look at all of the negative and the chaos and the toxicity, as I was saying. Of course I can take a look at those things and rule out what I don't want in my future love life, of course. And I feel like, that's easier to do. Because it is easier to look at someone and be like, here's where you went wrong. And, excuse me, it is, I think, easier to look at a situation that you've been through, especially when it was a difficult situation. It's easier to find the negative things and be like, well, I don't want this and I don't want this. I think it's harder, especially when it's entangled with all of those negative things. I think it's harder to look back on something and see the precious moments and to find the joy and to find the memories of value. So the reason why I'm talking about my marriage along with what I'm deciding that I want for my future love life is because they tie in with each other. Because again, the love that I shared with my husband is the love that I still carry. And I intend to share it with someone else in the future. But it's been really difficult, especially through my grieving process, to be able to look back and find pieces of value and to find moments that I cherish and to find the good and to find the happy. Because when you look back on such a difficult time in your life, and if it's a painful time in your life, you kind of have to dig through the mud. You have to get through all the muck and the grime to be able to see what was really good about it. But luckily, what's interesting is as you start clawing through all of the weeds, all of the things that are painful and all the things that do hurt, as you start going through those, you will start to find, inevitably, things that make you happy about it. You will start to find, oh, well, actually, it wasn't all as bad as my mind makes it out to be sometimes. And for my own personal grieving process, I had to make it out to be really bad. And it was, but I had to, for my own grieving process, what I've done is I've focused on the negative as a means to push myself through, as a means to remind myself why we left, as a means to remind myself why we can't go back. I had to do that. And I think it's different, but for my particular situation, that's the strategy I had to use. Because otherwise, I don't know that I ever would have made it out. And I say made it out as if I was surviving, but I don't know that I ever would have left. I don't know that I ever would have left and stayed gone and not gone back to a situation that was continuing to damage me. Because again, like I said, I loved him so much, and I wanted so badly for our marriage to work, and I worked really hard to keep our relationship afloat. Not to say that he didn't put his own effort in, but let's just say if I started to waver on how I felt, or if I started to waver in any sense of not being able to hold up my end, the whole damn thing was at risk of just falling apart. And eventually it did. Because I couldn't continue. I couldn't keep holding up. I couldn't keep holding everything up. I couldn't keep trying for the both of us. But anyway, sorry to go on a little bit of a tangent there, but also I'm not sorry. I'm trying to do this thing where I'm more unapologetically just myself. And if that's what comes out, that's what comes out. If I end up talking about my ex-husband and my marriage, then that's what comes out. But it does tie into, again, what I was saying about what I'm figuring out for myself, what I want for my future love. I do want a genuine connection. And I don't think that's built off of things being rushed. And I know it can happen in different ways, because I've heard of people falling in love quickly and it's still being genuine and it's still being a deep connection. So, and I've connected with people, not necessarily romantically, but I've made best friends in like a week. So I think it really just depends. I think it depends on the person and it depends on the situation. But as long as that exists, I want there to be a foundation built on friendship and a foundation built on like a genuine interest in one another. Like getting to know somebody just for the sake of wanting to get to know them. Because I feel like that's not what happens nowadays. I feel like we have such quick conversations and we ask vague or vapid. Is vapid the right term? Vapid is like what am I trying to say? I was going to say insignificant. I was going to say non-substantial. I don't even know if that's a word. Insignificant. Vapid is like airy. Like, I'm just trying to say, like, I feel like a lot of us have just like surface level conversations. I think a lot of us pretend, quote unquote. I don't know if that would be the right way to say it, but maybe not necessarily pretend, but maybe we do kind of fake interest to reach something quicker. Because like if you're just trying to hook up, you're not interested. You're not interested in learning about like what's this person's favorite late night snack, right? Like you're not interested in learning about like what keeps them up. What thoughts keep them up in the middle of the night? Do you believe in aliens? Like, how hard is it for you to do your laundry? Like, come on, be honest. Like, we're not asking these questions. I know those were kind of silly questions, but like genuinely, I feel like when you really want to get to know somebody, these are the kinds of things that pop up. It's like, like, what's your favorite shirt to wear? Like, I have all the shirts in your closet. Like, what's your favorite shirt to wear? And why is that your favorite shirt to wear? Is it the color? Is it the way that it feels? Is it the way that it looks? Is it all of the above? Like, I feel like when you genuinely are interested in somebody, you don't have to try to force these questions out. It's like, I feel like you just want to know. That can't just be me, right? When I'm genuinely interested in somebody, I want to ask so many questions. I like to ask questions in general, don't get me wrong. I do genuinely just like to get to know people, even outside of pursuing something romantic. I love getting to know people. I really do. And I like it. But here's the difference, is like when I'm getting to know somebody, it's kind of like I get this feeling of what kinds of questions I could ask. And I could be biased because I don't necessarily know what's going to, I guess, turn people away or what's going to turn people off in terms of like, if they were going to think I'm like weird. What kind of pasta noodle do you prefer? Do you like stale food? Me too. I do, though. I feel like those types of connections, because like, I feel like the deeper, genuine connections are rare. But I feel like there are so many of us that want those kinds of connections. And I know that they're out there. Don't get me wrong. I know that they're out there. And maybe part of why I'm talking about all this is because I do have a vulnerable fear of like, I'm not ever going to find somebody again like I have before who is genuinely interested in the many different shades of who I am, and where that interest is reciprocated and I'm just as interested in the many different shades of them. And to segue into the next thing that I wanted to talk about, I wanted to talk about the different shades of me and the different shades of just people in general. But to be able to talk about it, will talk about it from my own perspective. It's like, I feel like a lot of people have met me. I say a lot of people. I feel like some people have met me in certain times of my life or in certain situations. Like, some people meet me when I'm out dancing, having a good time. Some people see me when I'm only having fun. Some people see me when I'm only playful and flirty and sexy and in a good mood. And I feel like, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But I feel like if you are trying to build something genuine with somebody, it's a bit difficult if the majority of the time they've known you, the majority of time that they have seen who you are, it's like one or two shades of you. Does that make sense? Because it's like, I am a vast array of colors and shades. And it changes. It changes a lot throughout like one day, I feel like. Sometimes I am generally in a decent mood for most of my day, in a good mood, I'm happy. Sometimes for the majority of the day, I'm in a low mood, and there's just a lot that people don't see sometimes, and that's not their fault. But I feel like if someone has gotten to know me based off of seeing a few different shades the majority of the time, when another shade or a different color pops out, it's like, whoa, who's this? It's like, it's still me, but you're just not used to this. You're not used to this color of me. You're not quite used to this shade, because you don't see this one very often. And again, it's not necessarily their fault, and it's not really my fault. It's just, I think to have an awareness of the different shades of people is important. I think to be aware that people are going to fluctuate between different colors of themselves. So sometimes you might see a playful and fun side of somebody, and then you see them sad or angry. I think it's important to recognize this person can be all of those things and still be them. They can still be them. It is still them. But when we get used to seeing somebody as, because like for me, I feel like I'm very optimistic, I'm very bright, I'm very playful, I'm goofy, and I'm silly. And I am those things, and I feel like those are probably like my main shades. Well, if you're not around me all of the time, those are probably my main shades. But then again, like, no, I feel like, yeah, those are my main positive shades. And then I have I'm not going to call them negative shades, because I don't think of them as negative. I think it's just the rest of me. And then I have my not so positive shades, which still encompasses all of me. But I have my days, like some days I wake up and I'm consumed. I'm consumed in my grief. I'm consumed in a feeling. For a long time, for like probably, I want to say probably a year or two, I woke up angry almost every single day. This was when I was still married, so it makes sense with everything that I was dealing with at the time, but I would just wake up angry. And there's just so many different things, so many different feelings and versions of myself that is still, it's all me. It's all me. But I say like versions of myself. I like using the term shades because it doesn't necessarily imply that I'm anything different than me. I'm still me. I'm still this version of me. In whole, I'm still me. But there's just, oh my God, did you hear that? I'm so sorry if you did. No, I'm not. I'm not sorry. I'm unapologetically me, and my body makes sounds. Get over it. And what are you gonna do about it? I like using the terms different shades because, again, it implies that I'm not a different version of me. I'm still me. I'm just feeling a different kind of way, or I'm dealing with a different kind of thing in the moment. And that can change. It can change so often throughout the day. Like today I was very emotionally up and down. I was dealing with grief, and then I was dealing with some difficult feelings with my attempt at trying to walk away from something, but struggling to figure out how to navigate it. Struggling how to figure out just navigating a complex situation in my life right now. And then I was like playing games. I played Overwatch for like 6 hours. And then I started watching a movie, and I got like inspired to record. And now I'm sitting here recording and like laughing and like being vulnerable and like making jokes and like talking about my marriage and talking about love and talking about grief. And it's like so many different shades can happen in just the span of a day. And sometimes I feel like I have to be a particular shade around certain people, because otherwise, if I'm more than one or two of the shades that they're used to, then it's going to seem like I'm somebody else when I'm not. I'm still me. I had someone in my life recently tell me that the only time I use this particular voice, because we were on the phone, and he said the only time that I use this particular voice is like when I talk slowly. When I talk like this. He said the only time I talk like this is when I'm on my podcast and when he's in trouble. But then he said it's like I'm a different person. And it's funny. I think that's funny. I can understand around that particular person who made the comment. I feel like he's accustomed to seeing a couple of different shades of me the majority of the time. So when I'm this shade of myself that I'm usually not with him, it seems like I'm a different person. I think that's interesting. And I'm not a different person. All of this is me. And I know he knows that. And I know other people know that too. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know how often other people think about the intricacies of an individual, about the fluctuations of emotion and behavior and feelings, and how much people can fluctuate just in a day. I don't know how often other people think about that. But I try to be very aware, and I try to take it into consideration that even if I'm used to somebody being a particular way, if something else comes out, it's not foreign, and it's not them. It's just a different shade. It's just a different shade. And I may not be used to it. And that's cool. That's okay. I think it's one of my favorite things when I get to see more shades of somebody. When somebody feels comfortable enough and vulnerable enough with me to share a little bit more of themselves. And it's not in any way of like I don't want to force it. I don't want someone to feel like they have to share any particular thing with me. But if it is offered and it is shown by them willingly, then I try to be so just considerate and understanding of it. Because I understand how it can feel to not really feel like you can be this set of shades of yourself because someone's not quite comfortable with you. Someone's not quite comfortable with it. And that's fine. I'm not asking for anyone to be comfortable with the 50 Shades of me. No. The 50 Shades of me. That's funny. That's funny. I like it. I'm not seeking the validation. I'm not seeking the comfort out from anyone. And also it's kind of my own responsibility too, to just be more of myself. I've touched on it a little bit earlier of like, I'm trying to be more unapologetically me, but I am. I am trying to be more unapologetically me. And I would like to start more friendships and start more connections with more shades of myself. And for me to be able to do that, I have to get a bit more comfortable with being unapologetically all the shades of myself. And it's not an excuse to be a dick or an asshole. I'm not trying to do that. It's not like, oh, it's not me over here like, I don't give a fuck. I'm just going to be unapologetically myself and I'm just going to, no, I'm not doing it in a sense where I can just go off the handle, but to be just a bit more me. Less, I guess, sugar-coated. But it's going to be difficult finding the balance because I really enjoy the shades of me that are goofy and silly and playful. That is still me. And I love that. I love being those things. But I love being everything else too. I love being introspective. And I love being inquisitive and curious and intelligent and thoughtful and slow and intentional. I love being all of the not so silly, goofy, sweet, quote unquote, candy coated shades. I love those too. Don't get me wrong. I love those too. But I love being the other ones too. This was a cool episode. I don't know if a lot of it made a lot of sense. I just kind of came on here and talked about what was on my heart. And maybe some of you will relate with struggling to be all of you. Because that's tough. To just walk out into the world and be like, hey world, this is me, and I'm not always going to be happy, and I'm not always going to be pretty, and I'm not always going to say the right thing, and I'm not always going to make you laugh or make you smile, and I'm not always going to be cute and silly. Sometimes I'm going to be glum. Sometimes I'm going to be having a bad moment. Sometimes I'm going to be grieving. Sometimes I'm going to be in my head thinking about something. Sometimes I'm going to be focused on something else. And I may not seem as interested in what you're doing or what you have to say in this moment. It doesn't mean that I'm not interested in you. It just means maybe I've got something else on my mind. Maybe I'm feeling heavy. Maybe I'm heartbroken. Maybe I'm thinking about my family. Maybe I'm thinking about my parents. Maybe I don't feel like laughing right now. Maybe I don't feel like touching or cuddling. Maybe I just feel like lying here and staring at the ceiling. And maybe some days I will feel like dancing. And maybe some days I will laugh. I'll laugh at everything. I'll laugh at things more than I should. And maybe some days I'll cry at things that I don't think I should cry at, but I will anyway. And maybe some days I'll miss being a wife. And maybe some days I'll miss my childhood best friend. And maybe some days I won't know what to feel. I won't know what to say. I won't know what to do. I won't seem like the person that you claim to know. I'll seem different. But it's all me. It's all still me. And I'd like to be able to be all of me as often as I can, to the best of my ability. Because even that's going to be hard. Sometimes it's going to be hard to be all of me, and that's okay. But I'm working on it. And I think being all of me to the best of my capacity that I can be will set me up to build better foundations for future connections and friendships and relationships. And I'm looking forward to it. And that's all I got. That's all I have. Thanks for being here for episode 33 of the Bedside Table. Yeah! Thank you for being here. I will see you in the next one. Have a good night. Bye.